Thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Elise Little. I'm the Customer Success Executive here at Lumiant, and I'm also joined by Ash Plaskett, Head of Customer, as well as Mark Ackroyd, Head of Advice, Delivery and Strategy and Innovation, who'll be jumping in a little bit after. Thank you for joining today's session today on introducing Lumiant to your clients. So just a few housekeeping items before we kick off. We do have the chat functionality available and it'll be open throughout the session. So please use this to ask any questions. This will be an interactive session, so we'd love you to use the chat function as we move through the webinar. Just to test this out, if I could just get you to let us know where you're dialing in from, just type it in the chat field and that way we can see who we've got here today. Perfect. Sunny Coast. Oh, hi, Tim. Nice to see you. Ash, Sydney. Is it sunny in the sunny coast, Tim, or you get a bit of this rain as well? Not so sunny Melbourne. Oh, Kansas. Thanks, Bonnie. Thanks for jumping in today.
What's the weather like in Kansas at the moment? I bet it's cold. Is it cold over there right now?
Yeah, I'm imagining winter.
Very different.
Well, Bonnie maybe pops that in the chat. So yeah, you've got the chat functionality. It's there to be used. So please jump in. We'll be answering questions along as we go. So with today's session, it goes for 60 minutes. We will have a question and answer session at the end just to cover off anything that we haven't addressed along the way. And thanks, Mark. All right, excellent. So the session is also being recorded, and so we will share this at the end of the event as well. You can also access webinars on our support centre. So there's a webinar tile. That's where you can access any of them, the ones that we're running or what we've done in the past as well. So to jump in, the session today, it's going to take us through a script and it's going to help you position Lumiant with your clients. We're also going to talk about what is your life and what it was designed for. We're also going to go through and have a look at how to best use your life with your clients, how to understand and use the results in client meetings, how you can use your life as a lead magnet to capture new leads as well. So the outcome or the purpose of today's webinar is to help you introduce and position Lumiant to your clients and understand how to best use your life. So let's jump in and get started. So introducing Lumiant. So when you're introducing anything new to your clients, whether it be software, processes or products, it's important that you answer 3 questions before your clients are going to ask them. And these 3 questions are, why are you making a change? What is changing? And why should I care? So by answering these 3 questions up front for your clients, it's going to be much more easy or likely for your clients to understand what you are introducing or what you're changing and to help them proceed with any new processes. So before you actually start talking to your clients about Lumiant, first you must ask yourself, what are the top 3 things that you've achieved with your clients over the length of your relationship? So this helps you to frame the change that you're about to introduce with your clients in a positive manner. And when you're introducing Lumiant to your clients, the introduction is going to come in 2 phases. So as part of phase 1, this is where you might actually say, you know, we've been working with each other over the last 5 years, and over that time, I think you would agree that our practice has done a great job of, and this is where you insert your 3 things. So for this example, being responsive, being proactive, and at delivering an excellent portfolio performance. But things are changing. We've got markets that are at record highs. We've got interest rates that are at all-time lows. COVID is still here. So as well as we've done in the past, it's the opinion of the practice that we must do better. So the structure of phase 1 is to say 3 good things about yourself. Sorry, not yourself. You could do that too if you wanted to, but your practice. And then follow with a positive statement that no one is going to disagree with. And that will be, we must do better. So this is where you're going to start to move into phase 2. And so this is where you might say something along the lines of, as my best client, there's no one I'd rather get their input from than you. You've always been someone who has helped me evolve, been candid with me, and if I wanted to get anyone's perspective, it's going to be yours. So we've done a ton of research. We've created a new process that we'll be using with our clients. And our new process is really going to help us to understand what you want to achieve in life more than ever before. So as a valued client of our practice, I want you to know upfront that you don't need to do anything or change anything. Our relationship will stay the same, but this is the way that we're going to be working with our clients and how we're going to be moving forward. So as our best client, we wouldn't want to withhold an option from you that we're going to be giving to somebody else should you refer them to us tomorrow. So I'd like to take you for a test drive. You can let me know afterwards if it makes sense for you and your family. One thing to note here is, though, that clients that are in a couple, it is really important to have both members of the relationship present in your values meeting. So again, if you've got a joint household, you would highlight the performance, you would go through and highlight what you have achieved with them in the past through your relationship, and then you would ask them if they're willing to trial the new offering, but also involving their spouse into the meeting. So, pardon me, the scripts that we've put together that you see here, it's just a simple way in which you can let clients know what you're doing differently by introducing it. But of course, you're going to want to put your own spin on this. You might want to tailor your own script using the framework that we've got here that suits your practice a little bit more. And that way you can help to introduce that to your clients. So to help you with this, what we've done is we've put together an article. It's available on our support centre, and it includes short videos plus the framework that you've seen here so far. And you can use this to plan out your own introduction to your clients. So you can find this by searching the article, The Coach, How to Position Lumiant with Your Clients, which you'll see on the bottom of the slide here as well. And that's going to help you to really plan that out. So now that you know how to introduce Lumiant to your clients, I do want to move on to Your Life, as this is generally going to be the first module that you're going to use and introduce with your clients. So Lumiant's Your Life is our new approach to fact findings. It's going to turn the traditional fact find on its head, and Your Life looks to understand how clients feel about their life and their finances. Lumiant's Your Life module aims to help you better understand what really matters to your clients in their lives. It immediately engages that non-CFO spouse, and there's the ability to generate leads with our Your Life landing page. Our Your Life module is designed to understand how your clients feel about their life, and it helps to prepare them for a value session by getting them to think about what's truly important to them. It has been designed for clients to use fast brain thinking, and this is to help the practice to create an emotional connection with the clients from the outset. So by understanding what motivates their decision-making process. So the survey tool, it really gains an insight and produces a score on how the clients believe they're tracking to live their best life at this point in time. The survey can be retaken. It captures a history of how your clients are feeling throughout the relationship that you have with them. The Your Life module provides a great starting point in understanding how your clients are currently feeling and what dimensions of well-being are important to them as well. And so this really helps you to prime the client for the discovery session. And this is where you're going to use the results to help facilitate the values and goals conversation. So to show you how to best use the survey with your clients, what I'm going to do is jump in and I'm going to take you into the Lumiant workbench and just step you through how to actually use the survey. So just to check, you can see my Lumiant page there. Is that coming up okay?
Coming up nice and clear.
Excellent, fantastic. So for this example, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use Jill, Jones and John Jack. So to get to their page, you want to jump into your Lumiant workbench, you want to search for the client, and you want to go into the client's household up the top here. So this is your household dashboard. This is where you as an advisor can manage all of your activities for your client. And what we want to do is we want to go into life, because this is the activity panel that we use to generate the Your Life survey. So once we open up this one, we can see that these clients have actually already done a survey in the past. You can see a little bit around their status. So you can see that there's a bit of a running history as to when the last survey was done. We've also got that a new survey has been emailed and a bit of a status that this one hasn't been started. For John, we can see that he's started one, but he actually hasn't fully done it. When you actually want to send a survey to your client, you've got a couple of different ways that you can do this. So you've got the option to email a survey, and what that will do, it's going to generate an email from the Lumiant platform. It's going to send it from the Lumiant platform with a link that your client complete the survey. You've also got the copy link option. So that works a little bit different. When you copy the link, you can actually use the link, embed the URL into your own email. You might want to do a customized email, place the link in for the client, and they can go through it and complete the survey this way. Now, either way, when you choose these, you've got some toggle on options. So you'll see that there's an option here where it's got a login required for the survey. And what that means is that if you have registered your client to have access to the digital lifebook, it means that they would be required to actually sign into their lifebook before they can complete the survey. So if that's something that you don't want, you can just toggle that off, and it means that the client's going to click the link, they're going to go straight into the survey. The other thing that you'll see here is financial fact finds. And what that is it's a way that you can actually include a short financial fact finds at the end of the survey, which is optional for the client to complete. So should that be something you want the client to complete, you would toggle it on. If you don't want to include it, you can toggle it off. You'd hit done, and then that would send out the survey based on your requirements. The other thing that you'll notice in the copy link is same options, but you've got a little option here, mark as sent. And what that is it's just a way that you can actually track the status of your survey. Because if you didn't have that, and if you just copied the link, you wouldn't have a bit of a running history as to when you had actually sent that to the client. So you can toggle that one on. When you hit done, it's going to update that status and send the survey to the client. Now, with the financial fact find, it is generally designed for you to send that to the person in the household who would best know the answers regarding their financial details. So that could be the CFO, it could be the non-CFO. If you do send this to both clients, so if you've included it for both Jill and for both John, what would happen is if they both complete that survey, it's just going to keep the responses of the person that has completed it last. So that should just help you with deciding who you're actually going to send that through to. Now, so as mentioned, when you send the survey to the client, you've got your status field here. So this is where you can actually track where the client is up to in completing the survey. So when you send it, it's going to have a status of not started. It'll move to started, not done. Once this client has actually completed the survey, you'll have a completion date and when that has been completed. When the client actually completes the survey, the practice will get an email notification letting you know that that survey is done, and you can actually come in here and start to have a look at the results. Now, what I wanted to do is actually jump into a survey that has already been sort of partially completed, just so you can get a bit of a feel as to what the client is going to go through and a little bit more about the experience. So when the client clicks on the link, this is going to be the first page that they're presented with. So they'll have a little bit of instructions around what's in the Your Life survey. So an intro, there's going to be some details on goals, 8 dimensions of well-being, extra financial details if you've included that, as well as the Your Life score as well. Now, there's also the Lumiant teaser. So you might have your own branded teaser included in here, but essentially the client can watch this to gain a little bit more of an understanding around what you're going to be doing as part of your relationship. So the client is going to complete the survey, or start the survey, and what will happen here is they're going to be presented with some goals. So essentially they're being asked what financial goals that they would like some help with as part of your meeting. So the client will toggle on or off what they want to achieve as part of their meeting, and they'll progress to the next step here. And this is where it starts to really get into the actual Your Life survey and getting a good understanding as to their dimensions of wellbeing that are important. So this is what, I guess, the purpose of understanding what dimensions of wellbeing are important to them is to really dig deep and understand what's important in that client's life. So this is a way that you can help to understand what they actually value here. So the 8 dimensions, you've got financial, intellectual, occupational, physical, social, environmental, emotional, and spiritual. And the client will go ahead and start the survey. So this one's already been pre-filled in, but I'll just talk through a little bit of this for you. So the survey, it's going to ask the client 2 questions across 8 dimensions of well-being. So first, the clients are asked how critical a value statement is to them to living their best life. And then the statement's going to ask them to respond on a scale of not important to critical. So depending on how the client responds, there may actually be a follow-up question. If the client responds with a neutral response, just scroll back up. So neutral or all the way down to not important, they're not actually going to be asked a follow-up question, and that's just because that statement is not important to them. So there's no need to actually ask a follow-up question. So what will happen is this client's going to go through, they'll work all their way through the survey and they'll complete their questions. Once the client has actually completed and moved all the way through, it's going to take them to your connections. Before I jump into connections, just to show you this panel on the right-hand side, the client can actually use this to navigate through different areas. Should they want to go back and have a look at anything they've completed, they can also use the back buttons as well. So the last step in the survey, provided you haven't sent the extra financial details, is connections. And so with the connections, this will just capture the client's connections to help you explore important relationships, networks, families, and friends. And that way you've just got a little bit more of an idea as to who's important to the client. So once the client has completed the survey, it's going to bring up and show them their results and give them a little bit more of an idea as to what their score is, what dimensions of well-being, how they've ranked in those, and also what dimension of well-being is most important to them. So from here, once the client saves the survey, this is when the survey will be completed. And this is when the practice is going to get notified with an email notification, letting them know that the survey is done and that the results have come through. So that was just a bit of a quick run through of the actual survey, just to sort of show you what the client is going to go through. It would be really great here to understand if any of our participants that we've got on today have actually completed the survey themselves. So if you could maybe just pop in the chat box, yes or no, if you have completed the survey, that would be great. Thanks, Ash. Anyone else that has completed this? Tim, Bonnie, have you had a chance to do the survey yourself?
Oh, we have a hand raise. No, that was an accident.
Oh, yeah, Bonnie, fantastic. No, that's good to hear. Look, I guess the only way that you're going to get to understand the experience that the client is going through, but I guess also provide yourself a bit of an understanding as to what's important to you and what dimension of well-being resonates, the most, is to jump in and do the survey yourself. For the people that, oh, yeah, thanks, Pete. Nice. Good to have you on here. Thumbs up, Mark. For the people that have completed the survey, it would be really interesting to understand what dimension of well-being, I guess, was important to you or your score. Is that something that you remember from completing the survey? If so, if you could pop that in the chat as well, that'd be fantastic. Does anyone remember their score or what came back? Physical was yours, Ash. Was it doing really well? I'll roll back, Pete. No, that's okay. Look, might actually be a good opportunity for you to do it again. And that way you can compare your score to last time, see if anything's changed. You're looking now, Bonnie. That's all right. Look, it's definitely something interesting. So what I can suggest is that if you haven't done it, jump in, have a go and see what actually comes back. So what I'd also like to do is put up a bit of a poll, because it'd be interesting to know, out of all of our audience here today, what dimension of well-being do you think clients most need help with? So from all of the clients that we've got in the Lumiant platform, from everybody that has completed a survey, what area do you think that the clients might actually be struggling with the most? So I'll just give you a bit of time to go through and just select what you feel is the struggle the most. you're not sure, maybe have a wild stab.
See a few financials coming through.
Financial. I might just give it a couple more seconds.
I'll call it there.
Sounds good.
It's actually spiritual is the dimension of well-being that clients need most support with. So this is the area of well-being where they've may placed importance on it, but they're scoring really low, and it's something they really want to delve into a bit more and get your help with. So surprisingly, you might have thought it was financial. It's more the other aspects of their lives that they really need some help with.
Which is really fascinating, isn't it, Ash? Because that's the set of questions that asks about volunteering to purposes that they care about and supporting others to live a life with purpose. So they're conversations that maybe as advisors or accountants we don't often lean into, or we do but don't track. So what's really interesting with all the customers and clients that are using Lumiant now, we're seeing that that's arguably an area of life that they know they need to work on and want to talk about.
Particularly in the retiree stage, we're seeing this more and more where they have retired, they don't have an occupation, they're trying to find the purpose in their life, and they're trying to help others live a more purposeful life. So this might be why we see it being an area that's so important to them.
Yep, for sure, definitely. And so I guess it would be interesting, from the results that we've seen, I don't think anybody had picked spiritual. So I'm guessing there might have been some surprises in that result across our audience today. But yeah, so as an advisor and practice, once your clients have actually gone through and completed the Your Life survey, what will actually happen is those results will come into your client's digital life book. And this is where you can actually go in, have a look, and start to have a look at the results before your client's meetings. So what I'll do, I'm just going to jump in and just show you where you can find these results, how to look at them a little bit more before we take a bit more of a deeper dive. So when you're in your client's digital life book, the way that you would access that is from your household. You then want to go into the actual individual client. You want to click on Life because that's the module where the results are going to pull through. And so this is where you can really see how close the clients are living to their best life across the 8 dimensions of well-being. So for clients that have completed more than one survey, you will notice that there is some results up the top. Now, my example today is probably not the best one because this is my test client and I just click buttons willy-nilly, so hence why their life score has plummeted. But hopefully in your case, this wouldn't be the scenario, and through your relationship, that would hopefully increase. Sometimes there will be moments in life though where it might go down. So this is where you can actually see their score. So their scores will come through. You can also see how close they are living to their best life across the dimensions. Now, you'll notice that some of these actually don't have a result and it comes up NA. And the reason for this is because that would have been where a client has actually chosen a dimension of wellbeing. They would have rated that dimension of wellbeing not important to them. So it would have been a neutral. So there wouldn't actually be a score to come through because it's just something that's not important to them. You've also got the dimension of wellbeing that is most important to the client under the spider graph. And so what you're seeing here is a bit of a blob. But what happens here is the more important the dimension of wellbeing is to the client, the closer it is to the outer edge of the spider graph. So, for example, intellectual is quite important to John, spiritual, not so much. Goes a little bit against what we've just gone through in that survey though. Emotional, the rest are pretty on par, but yeah, so there's just a few things that maybe not necessarily important. Jill's results are pretty bad because that would just be because some of these just aren't really important to them at all. But this is just a high level way that you can have a bit of a glance as to what's important to the client. Next, you've got your About You section. And so what you're seeing here is when the client has gone through and selected some of those financial goals, this is just going to give you a high level view as to what they were. And if you did include the extra financial details, it'll also include their work status from what they have responded. The next bit that you'll see here is a bit of, the household matrix. it's going to break down, you can open up all of these tabs and you can have a look at the results. But essentially, it's going to show you the dimension of well-being, the questions that have asked, and then where the client has actually responded. And so the purpose of this is, I guess, to really have a way that you can see the results of the client. You can use this as a starting point in understanding how they're currently feeling, what dimensions of well-being are important to them. And you can also, I guess, see where there might be a bit of discrepancies between the household as well. You can also, I guess, if you're going to dive into this with the client, which you'll see shortly with what we do with Mark, you can actually come in here and capture some notes as well. So you might actually uncover a little bit of information from the client when you do ask some questions about the dimensions of well-being. So you can come in here, you can add some notes and you can save them along the way as well. So I guess the purpose of this is to really, I guess, understand where the client is, what's important to them, and then use this to help facilitate the values and the goals conversation. So what I'm going to do from here is many practices really ask us how to use the results from the Your Life survey with their clients and how to actually do this in the advice meeting. And so although we do have a bit of a framework on our support centre that talks you through the process, we thought that this would be a really good opportunity to actually go through, play out like a bit of a role play scenario where we go in, have a client meeting and discuss the results of the Your Life survey. So for this, what I'm going to do is invite Mark Ackroyd and Ash to also join me. And we're just going to play out a little bit of a live scenario. So Mark, I'm going to hand it over to you to run the client meeting as the advisor. And Ash and I, we're going to be your clients.
Brilliant. Thank you, Elise. Hey, everyone. Nice to be with you today. I get to play the fun role of being an advisor in your role play today. So you get to watch me give you my most cringeworthy role play. I know that they're never fun to do or participate in, but we hope that you get some value out of this, and you can give us some feedback as well, because ultimately this will help us understand what feels right, what doesn't. So what I'm going to work you through is a skills practice. Ash and Elise are going to be my clients, Dan and Abby, and you can see their screen on your screen hopefully now, so you can see their life book. But before I get into the skills practice, as it is with any meeting that you're about to do, there's probably a little bit of prep work as an advisor that we'd ask you to do, or probably help set you up, I guess, for the most success when you get into the Your Life discussion. So as Elise mentioned, this is usually at the start of your interaction. So for advisors, it's that initial discovery or engagement meeting, whatever you call it, in your practice, and same with accountants, whatever that initial sort of conversation is around a client's goals and values. So it's a preparatory discussion. It's not the main game. We know the main game's in the next module, which is values and goals. But this is the way for you to start to set yourself apart in your value proposition by talking about well-being first, as opposed to how much money they have first, which is a real shift for how advisors and accountants think, but more so for a lot of our clients, because especially if they've been in a relationship for you and haven't gone through this before, or if this is their first time as a financially advised client, this might be different to what they expect. So let me work you through probably the key preparatory steps before you even entertain this discussion, and then we get into a skills practice. So we're in the Lumiant platform here. The first thing I'm going to do is just double check out of my clients, Dan and Abby, who is the CFO and the non-CFO. So for those of you that have done a values conversation before, you know we always like engaging the non-CFO first, because they rarely get engaged in a conversation around their finances. Same goes for unpacking the Your Life questionnaire. So I know that Abby is the non-CFO here and Dan is the CFO. So I'll make a mental note of that and then get straight back into their life to get a bit more preparation done. Now, what you're looking at the screen here is a client that has done a couple Your Life surveys. So they probably started their relationship with us 12 months ago. This is their second one. For the sake of the role play today, let's pretend they haven't had a relationship with us before, or this is their first time doing the Your Life survey. So we'll just take Dan and Abby's score at 63 and 69. At this point, I'm just noting the score on my notes. So I'm going, all right, so Dan's a little bit lower than Abby. Whether they're, 100%, 30%, whatever that might be, it's their score. Everyone ranks themselves a little bit differently. I wouldn't get too caught up in that score today, in particular with their conversation, because everyone can be their own harshest critic. All you need to do is clock it and be able to sort of unpack it with them. The next thing I want to go through is actually a comparison between these two charts. So what I'm looking for here is, what did Dan and Abby say was most important to them? And then if I offset that around how they're tracking to what's most important to them. And this is really important because I'm sure a few of you on the webinar today are going 8 dimensions of well-being, plus a values conversation, plus a goals conversation, plus any fact finding I need to do, might turn into a bit of a monster of a meeting. And you're absolutely correct if you go through all of those. To reiterate, this is a preparatory discussion. The main game is that values and goals discussion. So all I want to do is pick out a couple conversation starters so that it can start to whet the appetite of our client conversation in our meeting, to get them thinking that this isn't the normal advice experience here. We want to get to know them. So if I have a look at Abby first as the non-CFO, what sticks out to me are the dimensions that most important to her are social, occupational, and emotional. And if I offset that around how she's tracking, emotional is probably the most important and least progressed. So I really want to unpack that. Okay, so I've made a note of that, and that's probably where I'm going to start with Abby. Depending on time and how she's reacting, I might go into financial. So the reason I'm going financial second is it wasn't as important as emotional, as you can see, and she is the same amount as progressed. So I'm thinking emotional is the right thing. And the little red herring here is spiritual. You might go, well, that's only 55% as well, but she didn't rank it as highly as the others either. So that's why I'm sort of ranking it in that way. So I like to pick maybe 1 or 2 to go through depending on how much, because really this is just priming the discussion for the value session. For Dan, if we have a look at him, occupational is the most important out of all of his areas of well-being. And luckily, for the sake of the role play, it's also 55% achieved for him. So that'd be really interesting to unpack, in particular, given he's the CFO. So I assume there's something underneath there. So I've made notes of those. That's where I'm going to start with the conversation. The other thing I wanted to check is we ask in that Your Life survey, as Elise said, if there's anything specific on their mind that they want our help addressing. So obviously you want to clock this and have a look at this before the meeting. This is the boulder that they're carrying in. I've heard it sort of talked about before. So for the sake of the role play, we won't go into this section because we want to more unpack the rest of the survey. However, what I would recommend and what we recommend is you always start here. Always start with that burning issue first, because if they've said to you, this is the specific thing that's on my mind, you obviously want to uncover that. Uncover it as much as you think you need to at this early stage of the conversation, and then park it for the rest as you go through your well-being and values discussion. Because we know that whilst that's the initial scope of advice or area of advice, or however you want to call it, initial reason for reaching out, it's it could be exacerbated or could be further articulated by going through this process. The last thing you'll check is obviously if you want to go into those areas of well-being that we're going to talk about, which we will live. So Dan and Abby, I know I want to talk about emotional with Abby, so we'll get those ready to go. And I want to check the household details. Once again, probably not going to come up in this conversation right now, but we know that knowing these little financial details could be helpful if the conversation starts going towards money as you go through. And if they've gone to the trouble of picking it out and writing it down for you, if and when that comes up, you want to be able to know that you've looked at it. So that's the prep work I've done. I know I'm going into this conversation with Dan and Abby, what I'm going to unpack. So for the sake of this skills practice, a couple little ground rules. It's not going to be perfect, nor should it be perfect. But I'd love your feedback. So as I'm going, if there's anything that I say you like, or you go, gee, Mark, that wasn't that crash hot, chuck it in the chat box. The reason we ask you to do that is we've got really diverse people on the call. So by seeing what other people like and don't like, you can get peer-to-peer feedback. So you can see what resonates with other types of advisors. You can see what doesn't. You might be able to pick up other ways of doing things, which is what we're all here for. So please chuck your feedback in, get a little bit in there. Once again, this isn't a script. So this isn't best practice. This is a way of doing things. This is a way that we've seen other advisors do it. But as Elise said with the scripts at the start, you're going to have your own natural flair for this sort of conversation. You're going to have your own questions that you like. But this is largely the intent of how we believe the conversation is supported by the Your Life module. So with all that prep work, we're going to spend about 10 minutes going through this skills practice with my lovely clients, Dan and Abby. So Dan and Abby, if I get you to unmute, we're going to take this skills practice from the point of we've just unpacked their boulder, what they came in for. So this bit on the screen here, if you can see my mouse, and we're just moving straight into the Your Life survey. So Dan and Abby, that's great. We can absolutely help you with that, with those things. As I mentioned, the key part of us today talking about you, your values and your well-being is so that we can provide that holistic picture for you, really get to understand what your drivers are, what's most important to you outside of money, so that we can help articulate what that best life picture looks for you. And once we articulate what that best life picture is, I can help you put together the strategies in place to help you achieve that. So the first thing that we're going to do is unpack that little survey that we got you to do prior to coming in today. So firstly, thank you for doing that survey. Abby, I might go to you first. How did you find the experience of doing that survey?
Yeah, it was really interesting. Haven't really done anything like that before. Hadn't really thought about some of these things before. Yeah. Not what I was expecting.
Yeah, great. That's something that we hear a lot from our clients. Did you enjoy doing it, or was it confronting? You said it's something that you haven't really done before.
Yeah, I did enjoy it. I mean, it was quick, so it didn't take me all that long. And yeah, it kind of just got the thought bubble going, really, because I hadn't really thought about some of this stuff.
Perfect. Well, hold that thought bubble for me then. We're going to unpack that thought bubble a little bit. Dan, if I ask you the same question, how did you find the experience?
Oh, look, when you first sent it across to me, I thought this is a bit fluffy. It wasn't really me. Like, I'm coming to see financial advice. But the reality is I've done this and I've identified some areas in my life that I hadn't really thought about before. So it's been quite handy from that perspective. But I'm intrigued to see how you tie this back to my finances.
Yeah. We get that response quite a lot as well, Dan. In particular for those that have been through a financial advice experience before. How did it make you feel doing this compared to the other experiences that you've been for?
It's definitely different.
Yep.
And it's been good because I've started to think more broadly about my life rather than just the money in the bank account. So I think it could be quite useful for seeing what I want to do next.
Perfect. That's the intent, right? And we'll probably spend the next 5 to 10 minutes unpacking some of it. As I mentioned on the phone and in the email, this is all a precursor to a bigger conversation we're going to have today around the values that you hold dear to yourself. And the reason those values are so important is they help us articulate the goals that you need to build that best life. So think of this next sort of 5 to 10 minutes as a bit of a precursor to that conversation. Dan, to your point, you'll start to get a bit of a sense around those areas of life that you may not have considered, and you may not have even heard from Abby, and Abby vice versa for you. So I'm going to walk you through the screen that you're looking at, because if our relationship continues, this is a screen that you'll continue to look at as you track this during our relationship. So I'll walk you through it a little bit. And I had a bit of a look at your survey. So I've got a couple of questions I'd love to unpack with you if that's okay.
Sure.
Awesome.
Good.
So the first thing that you can see here is the outcome of your survey. So Dan, you got a 63, and Abby, you got a 69. We often hear clients go, is that good? Did I pass?
I was about to ask.
Yeah. The thing that you'll start to find as you go through this experience is everyone runs their own individual race. So today is about understanding what that race looks like for you and setting your own individual goals. Because quite frankly, this is a test that you ranked yourself on. So these are your benchmarks, not anyone else's. So 63, Dan, might be what good is for you. And same for you, Abby. But ultimately, we want to work together to see if there's any areas there that we can improve on together. So today, all I want you to do is acknowledge that that's our base. As our relationship progresses over years, we might see that hopefully go up, but equally, we might see it fluctuate. You know, we might see it go up and down because of, you know, we have good years and bad years. I mean, we only have to look at the last 2 years of the pandemic to know that we can't sort of continually move this way. We've got to be ready to ride those ups and downs. So let's just clock that score and say that's where we are today, which is great. The next bit you'll see is the outcome, or the how close you're living. So you might recall in the survey, it asked you if something was important to you and how close you were to achieving that. These are the outcomes of that. Once again, we're not going to go through each one of these today. There's probably a couple I want to unpack with you, but we don't want to boil the ocean. You know, Dan, as you said, you're here for financial advice. We want to make sure that we tackle the ones that are probably most important to you and most stick out. Because when you offset the results of how close you were to living your best life to what's most important to you, there's a couple that really stick out. So Abby, I wouldn't mind starting with you. Let's unpack one of those key things that sticks out for me. I've noticed here that you ranked emotional, occupational, and social as your most important areas of well-being, which is really cool. So thanks for ranking those. But when I look at how you're progressing to those, the one that sticks out for me the most is you said emotional was a 10. So one of the most important things that's important to you. However, when you're looking at how you've achieved that, you're only 55%. So you're only halfway there. So if I can put your mind back in that survey, Abby, I'll show you down here. That was asking you questions like, how important is it to be able to spend money without worry? And how important is spending time with loved ones? Mm-hmm. So if I ask you to reflect on that, why is it, or what was on your reflection, the reason you ranked yourself sort of halfway to achieving those things? And if you don't mind, Abby, I'm going to turn on our little voice to text so that it takes the notes here, because as we said, this is going to be your little portal. So you can always come back and go, why did I rank that 55%? Because I don't know if your memory's bad, but mine certainly is. So I need everything tracked here. So if I ask you, Abby, what on reflection, when you were asked those two questions, how important is it to spend without guilt and spend time with family members? Yep. What was on your mind when you ranked yourself a 5 out of 10? I
can see it counting down. I'll wait till that comes up.
You good to
go. Look, the reason why is that my sister's a little bit unwell at the moment. And so I've been trying to help out with, you know, she's got kids that are quite young. So I'm trying to help out with maybe paying for some of the things because she's off work. So yeah, I want to be able to, you know, enjoy my life, but as well as support my nieces and nephews as well. So yeah, that's kind of where that has stemmed from.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And look, you're probably reading the notes there. Our voice to text does a fair job, but it'll need us to tidy it up a little bit. So I've taken some handwritten notes and I'll tidy that up as well. But what I heard you say there is, you know, your sister's unwell, and I'm sorry to hear that. So what this prompted you to think is how you might support her as well as supporting yourself and your nieces and nephews. So Dan, if I might ask you, how does that response make you feel? What when you heard Abby talk about that?
I know Abby's sister was unwell, but I didn't realise it was impacting her quite like that. And it's good to know that it's something that we need to think about in terms of our finances moving forward and what we might need to do to support them.
Yeah,
Because we want to support them worry free. Like, we want to help our sister out as much as we can.
Absolutely, Dan. It's and that's the power of having this conversation, right? You know, we often talk about our own finances, but being asked questions that we might not think are quite normal get us to think a little bit outside the square. So thank you, Abby, for sharing that. We can absolutely think about how supporting your sister and your nieces and nephews whilst keeping your own goals and best life on track can be accommodated in your plan. Dan, if I move over to your area of wellbeing that I think is probably most important to speak about here is you rated occupational as the area of wellbeing that's the most important to you. So it sticks out more than the other 7. And similar score to Abby, you gave yourself a 5 out of 10 for occupational. So if I get your mind to go back here and have a look at the questions that they ask you there. So these are questions like, how important is working with purpose, whether at home or in your career? And how important is achieving financial independence to reduce your working hours or retire early? So same again, I'll enable our little dictation service, but when you're answering those questions, what was your reflection around those questions that made you think you're about a 5 out of 10?
Yeah, look, work. I work a lot, right? And I've been working long hours for a long time, and I really want to find something that gives me more purpose and gives me more drive. The other thing, I want to make sure that I've got the right career that would allow me to step down early and start spending more time with my family. I've already put in long hours already. I want to start reducing those as quickly as possible because I want to spend time with those I care about and those I love. And I'm not there yet. I'm still working too much, too long.
I mean, aren't we all? I think the first step is to acknowledge that. So thank you for sharing that, Dan. And once again, there's a lot in there for us to unpack as this meeting progresses and our relationship progresses. You know, what is the time and the day or the year that we can help you step back so that you can spend time? You know, is there freedom that we can give you or areas that we can think about where you might be able to take that little sidestep into a passion project and not have to worry about the finances? These are all things, knowing that now, that we could probably explore during this experience. Abby, similar to how I asked Dan earlier, hearing that response from Dan, how did that make you feel?
It makes me, he is at work a lot. And I guess because I'm a little bit away, you know, with doing things with my sister and family, it kind of made me realize, like, it's great that he's willing to look at options to try and support me a little bit more. Well, that's how I feel anyways. Gonna get more support.
I'm glad. I mean, maybe next time you'll be Zooming from the same room as opposed to Dan Zooming in from the office. Who knows? No, thank you, Dan and Abby. So as I said, we won't unpack all of those. Before I do move on though, is there any of the wellbeing areas that I didn't cover just purely because of the way that we've ranked them that you wanted to cover, or are you happy to move forward with the conversation?
I'm pretty happy to move forward.
Awesome. Thanks, Abby. Dan, nodding. Yep, cool.
Yeah, happy to move forward.
Thanks, mate. So, remember those responses. Excellent. And we'll go in now and do our what we call our value session, where we'll probably expand on some of those things that are on your mind as we get you to think about what your key values are.
Brilliant.
And sing.
Thank you so much, Mark.
No problems. So I'll stop sharing.
Yep.
And hand back to you, Elise.
Perfect. So I mean, I guess that was a pretty quick run through of what you would be doing in a, in your first meeting with the client. I guess from what we have gone through today, it would be really interesting to hear from yourselves, the audience that we've got on here today, if you found any surprises in that. Like, does that, because we often do get that it is hard to understand what to do. So has that been helpful with what you would do in a values session or your discovery session or whatever it is that you do call it?
Or has anyone been doing it a different way?
Yeah, I'd be keen to learn.
Any feedback from what you've just seen, or is there takes a bit of time to maybe digest or re-watch over the video?
My acting performance could have put people to sleep too.
Haven't seen anything come through the chat as yet, so I'll just press on just in the interest of time, and if anything does come through, yeah, still please feel free to shout out. So I guess as you have seen with the Your Life survey, here we go. Sorry, I'll just jump into here, all positions. Yeah, so yeah, given the time constraints, that it is quite a long lead into the value session. So yeah, as you can see, only need to spend a couple of minutes, and obviously we spend a little bit more time on what you do before the session, how to unpack things like that. But if you take a little bit of notes before your meeting and you kind of know what you want to focus on, it's really going to help to string that line down to maybe just 5 or so minutes.
Yeah, and the more...
I was just going to say, I think what I was trying to keep an eye on the time, but I think it was around 15 to do that whole sort of version of it. Obviously, you've probably got 5 to 10 before that unpacking the initial reason for coming in. So you're probably 20, 25 minutes in, and then you're heading into a value session. The theory here is we think the first time you do this will always take the longest, because you're explaining what they're looking at. You're explaining how the system works. You're explaining why you're asking these certain things. We would hope that in Dan and Abby's review meeting or progress meeting, however you term that meeting in 3, 6, 12 months, when you follow back up, you don't need to go through those sort of explanatory steps, and it gets a little bit quicker as your relationship moves on.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess, as you have seen today with the Your Life survey, there is an opportunity for you to be able to understand how close your clients are to living their best life and identify opportunities through your relationship to improve their lives as well. So you can actually use the Your Life with new and existing clients, and it can also be used as an important marketing and fact-finding tool as well. So to do this, we have actually created a standalone version of the Your Life module, and you can host this on your website as a lead magnet. You can include it in blog posts, emails, however you like. And the way that this works is that through the Your Life link, prospects can either click it into their details. Lumiant will actually create them as a client in your platform under the practice. The client will be prompted to complete the Your Life survey and be able to obtain their life score and their results. And once their results are in, the practice will be notified. So you can actually reach out to the client, give them a call, discuss their calls a little bit more in depth. And it just creates an excellent opportunity just to see if they'd be interested in actually coming in, having a meeting, and seeing how you can actually align their finances to what they truly value in life as well. So if you haven't actually already got the Your Life link, this is something that we can help you to generate, and it also will help you to, I guess, generate quality leads, all whilst gaining useful information about what areas of life are most important to your prospects. So please, if you haven't got this, you can reach out to us, to our support team. They'll create this link at your request. Once they've created it, it'll be supplied to you, and it'll be ready to go. And the way that you would raise that request is just through our support centre. Just let them know the practice that you're coming from, and they'll get that sorted as well. So that covers off everything that we were going through to discuss in this session today. I do want to, I guess, open it up, have a question and answer session. That way, you've got the opportunity to chat in the function, any questions that may have come up throughout this session today. If you just wanted to, maybe if we just spend the next minute or so, if you've got any questions, put them in the chat and we can go through and discuss any of those that you have raised. Just give it a minute or so just to see if anything does come through. Look, if you haven't got a question that comes to mind straight away, but at the end of this, perhaps if you watch over it or if something does come to mind, you can always reach out to our support team. There's an option in the ticket there to raise a question. So send it through and we can always address those after the fact as well. So I'll just move on, but we'll answer if anything does pop up. So that is the end of our session today. So at the end of the session, you will receive a recording and that'll come through via email. For more resources, we do have our Lumiant Support Centre. The quickest way to access that is when you are in your Lumiant login, right down the bottom, you'll see a little support. Click on that. It'll take you through to our support centre, and that's where you can access all of our resources. Use the search field, type in your life, you'll see all of the material that we do have to help you. At the end of this webinar as well, you will also receive a short feedback survey. If you could just please spend the extra couple minutes just to fill that one in. Your responses really do help us with what content we need or what webinars that we can do. So it just really helps to shape the future of our webinars as well. Perfect, Pete. No worries at all. Thank you. And so, yes, we do have more webinars on the way. We're trying to run those each fortnight. So register when you can. If you want to look at any of the webinars that we've had in the past, you can also, again, Support Centre, click on the webinar tile and you'll be able to access those as well. So that does bring us to the end. I haven't seen any other questions come through as yet. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope you do have a great rest of the day. If you do need any assistance off the back of today, please reach out and we'll be happy to help.